Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Daily Cannon Tactics Board. Stephen Bradley here, bringing you the tactical tweaks and quirks that came from Arsenal's very comfortable 2-0 win against Luton Town in the Premier League last night. A comfortable victory, and over the next 10-15 minutes or so, I'll be going through just how Arsenal were able, especially the first half, basically walk their way through a Luton side that had heart, but very much came up with the wrong game plan to stop what Arsenal were able to do. If you do like this sort of comment, feel free to leave a like. If you saw something that I missed last night, feel free to leave a comment. And if this is the sort of content that you enjoy, please leave a subscribe and tell your friends. You know, that engagement, those sweet, sweet numbers, we all love it. And any sort of help and any sort of boosting by anyone who enjoys this content would be greatly appreciated. Thank you to everyone who left a comment last time. The response has been fantastic. It's been encouraging. Especially one person who said I was the sommelier of football, which I have never heard that one, but that's a fair compliment. And I can assure the person who thought that I've forgotten my YouTube password, I wish it was that simple. But it was a quality line, so fair play. But no, I'm fine for the moment. Again, Arsenal are doing well, the head's okay, so let's keep rolling while the times are good. And in the first half, times were good for Arsenal. Like, they made a series of changes, obviously, from the 0-0 at Manchester City, because that first 11 ran themselves into the ground. And look, with all due respect to Luton Town, if you're not going to rotate for Luton Town, who are you going to rotate for? You know, like, at some stage, you do need to give the likes of Saka, the likes of Declan Rice, you know, even with Gabriel Jesus, who played 75 minutes on Sunday, they need to be managed. You know, we need them at the end of April and the end of May. So this game was a perfect opportunity to give the likes of Smith Rowe, Nelson, Partey, Zinchenko 70 minutes, 75 minutes, to just give everyone else a rest and a breather. And on the most part, it was job well done, you know, and maybe a couple more than others. I mean, you know, Smith Rowe was given man of the match, and probably rightly so, but this was a game that illustrated just how important Martin Odegaard and lately Kai Havertz are to this team, because for 45 minutes Luton had no clue where the Arsenal attacks were coming from, and it was down to especially these two, but also in the way that Smith Rowe helped and Zinchenko helped. We hear talks about false nines and what that was, you know, especially since Pep brought it in with his Barcelona side in 2008. You know, Fabregas famously played up front for Barcelona for 2 years. He put Messi there for a year and a half, and Barcelona were unstoppable. Luis Suarez did it for a while. And in tonight's game, Arsenal had a false 9, but they also had a false 8, a false 8, and a false 3. You know, 3, 11, 17, no, 19, yeah, 16, 9, 3, 28. They had a false 28. And what I mean by that is that we know that Zinchenko's not a left back, really. He is a midfielder. So when Arsenal had the ball, they moved into this shape. Gabriel would shift over here. Zinchenko would move into that familiar place of almost like left defensive midfielder, but left centre mid. Saliba and then Ben White at times would stay back, but if needed would bomb on. Partey would shift over here, Smith Rowe would push forward, and Odegaard would push forward. Zinchenko and Partey would end up here. And you get this, we'll put Havertz up there for a second, you get this box. You know, we've called it the box formation, where, you know, Manchester City had it last year and smashed teams to bits with it, because they were able to just rotate the ball between the four of them, and if these two push forward, then you're leaving your number 9, which in City's case was Erling Haaland, one-on-one to do this, and then it's only a case of either, you know, Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva to get the ball in here, and the best number 9 in the world scores. What Arsenal did, slightly differently, but especially effective in this game, was to leave Partey back here, let Odegaard drop back, and Havertz to come. And what it meant was that these back three basically had two choices. either push forward to make the game nice and compact and stop Arsenal from having any space, basically do this and tell Arsenal with quick players, but not the quickest players in the world, knock the ball over, or fall back and say, right, okay, you want to have the balls there, we're just going to do this. And basically do what Arsenal did to City on Sunday, which is just a big black wall and just go, right, okay, you're not getting through the middle. Unfortunately for Luton Town, they did neither. Or both. The back line went back. The forwards stayed forward to try to press, and the midfield got caught between the two. And what you ended up with at times was Smith Rowe and Havertz in here. Basically just with all of this room in between the lines. Nelson would stay as wide as he can to make sure, the Doty, the left wing back, couldn't get involved. And Trossard did the same so that Onyedinma couldn't get involved. And now it's 3-on-2. And because Townsend, Morris and Clark didn't press, they were almost staying up here to try and force back these three. What happened was Odegaard pushed forward, Partey goes here, and now all of a sudden you've got these three up front with Zinchenko and Partey locking balls through past Mpanzu and Barkley into here, and it's 5-on-5. And good luck. You back Arsenal against basically a championship back line over and over and over again. Now add to that at one stage it looks like this. The next time it looks like this. The next time it looks like this. The next time it looks like this. Because what Arsenal are doing is they're drawing these out. They're trying to get these out of position by following players. And what was happening was Mengi and Kabore were doing the right thing. Even though Kabore is a right wing back or left wing back at times, he was doing the right thing. He was staying back because he'd been picked basically in case Saka was playing. So he was staying back. But Mengi and Hashioka were getting drawn forward. So now, with Mpanzu and Barkley not pressing, the front three staying forward to try and pin Arsenal back. Look at all this space. All of this space was there, and Smith Rowe was doing this again and again and again. And then any time Hashioka would cover over, Zinchenko would drop back, and now it's 1-on-1, Trossard versus Onyedinma, and Trossard was beating him off the dribble again and again and again. He was getting in behind. Hashioka now is to come back. Mengi is coming over. Kabore is still sticking here, and Smith Rowe and Havertz are flying in. It's rudimentary stuff, but what Arsenal were doing was just catching them again and again and again. Just repeating the same trick over and over again. The ball would come here, it would come to Zinchenko, Partey would be back here, it would come to Odegaard, it would go left, and then it'd get cut into the middle and there'd be a shot. And it was clockwork. David Raya would have the ball, he'd either kick it long to Nelson or short to Saliba, who would knock it to Zinchenko, who would knock it to Odegaard, who would play it wide, and then they'd cut in from here. It's not rocket science, but it was working so often. Arsenal just kept doing it again and again and again and again and again, and Luton never really, especially in the first half, they never really adapted. And ironically, for all Arsenal's offensive possession, for all their ability to cut through the lines, it was their defensive ability that got the goal, because from a Luton goal kick, Luton are very they try their best to get on the front foot. They are not a defensive team. To be fair, they've scored in 18 games in a row, and they had a goal kick. Onyedinma pushes up, Townsend pushes up, Clark pushes up, Doherty pushes up, and Hashioka, Mengi and Kabore, they all push up, and you're left with something like this from a goal kick. And It's knocked short. Hashioka gives it to Mpanzu, and Mpanzu gets caught. And Barkley had already tried to get forward to try and get the ball off Mpanzu, and Odegaard's there. And suddenly, Smith Rowe nicks it, and it's 3-on-3. He gives it to Havertz. Everyone crashes in on Havertz. Odegaard goes round. Havertz passes the ball, and it's 1-0. And it's because of the offensive pressure that Arsenal were putting on Luton, that Luton felt that anytime they had the ball, they had to push forward because they thought it was the only time they might have a chance. And that's why Arsenal's pressing is so impressive, forgive the pun, with especially Odegaard and Havertz doing it, because we bought Gabriel Jesus to basically be a presser. He was the best defensive number 9 in the world. Havertz is getting up there now. Like his defensive intelligence is such that Odegaard can go here, and they can cover when there's a goal kick. They can cover these spaces. Smith Rowe can then go there, and then basically Nelson pushes up, Trossard pushes up, Partey pushes up, and then they're almost saying to you, "Go on, knock it long. We dare you. You know, we want you to knock it long. We want you to knock it over the top. We want you to try and take advantage of this." And Luton basically fell into the trap because they kept passing it to Hashioka. Smith Rowe would come over, and he'd look up and go, nowhere to pass it, hooved it out of play. Or Kaminsky would try and knock it long to Onyedinma because he's 3 inches taller than Trossard, and would knock it out of play. They had no sense of pressure at all that they were able to build on Arsenal, apart from an odd counter-attack in the first half. And again, the second half, the second goal came from precisely the same pattern of play, where Trossard gets the ball, gets past on Dima again. Hashioka comes close to Trossard. Smith Rowe just sits there. He goes, "Oh look, all this space is here for me." Gets the ball. He crashes. And it's Reece Nelson this time who manages to get in, of all people, from the right. Kabore is behind him, but never gets in front of him. Smith Rowe basically just smashes at the two of them, hoping it'll hit one of them, goes in. Misses Nelson, hilariously, but hits Kabore and goes in, and it's 2-0. And it's game over. Just because Luton never got to grips with Arsenal's ability to get in here, especially, time after time after time, because most of the time, they didn't know who was going to be out of these three. And when the second half started, Luton decided, you know what, that's not going to happen anymore. Mpanzu's going to sit here. Barkley's going to sit here. Townsend's going to come back. Clark's going to come back. And basically, we're not going to move. And we're going to play almost 5-1-3-1. And Arsenal went, okay. Havertz stood there. Odegaard stood there. Smith Rowe stood there. And Arsenal playing 2-4, almost 2-4-2-1 with Reece Nelson just left out there on the right, just to try and drag players over a bit. And for 45 minutes, nothing happened. It's, you know, I said I tweeted online at Bradley08 on X, as we have to call it now. You know, the second half. I mean, you know, we just let Luton have the ball. There was no real threat. You know, like I said, scored from all this momentum, and then the second half, you know, the hour comes and we're like, yeah, we're 2-0. They're not scoring. Ho hum. You know, even, you know, 0.82 XG. Now, bear in mind, if Nelson if that's not an own goal, if Nelson scores that in itself would be 0.7, 0.8 XG. So that should be 1.6. But even then, that's not a huge amount. But that's all Arsenal needed to do. You know, they were efficient. They were compact. They were professional. You know, this was a Carabao Cup performance against a team they should beat. And they beat them. It is as simple as that. Now, best thing about it is Declan Rice played 20 minutes. Bukayo Saka played no minutes. Gabriel Martinelli played 15 minutes. Gabriel Jesus played no minutes. It's these performances that you need. we worry about the big games a lot, but these boring, monotonous, routine 2-0 wins are just as valuable as a 3-1 at home to Liverpool. If you don't win these games, you don't win the league. And Arsenal were not boring. Like I said, the first half was perfectly acceptable. The second half, they put their feet up. But frankly, at this time of the season, they have every right to do so. That concludes my analysis of Arsenal versus Luton. We got Brighton Saturday night. I should be able to get a video out Sunday morning. If not, it'll be Monday. But again, if you enjoy this sort of content, this sort of analysis, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment. We've got plenty of people talking about the game. Like I said, it's a run-of-the-mill 2-0 win. We will take those all day long. Until next time, viewer. Cheers.